Today's review is from one of the first of the new beers from Sainsbury supermarket that's just been released. And this is a beer from my favourite brewery, Polly's. You may have seen it before. It is Floret, but it's now an extra pale ale. But what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going, it's a bit of a re-review this one. This is a brand new beer in Sainsbury supermarkets. First time in Sainsbury's. It's from Polly's, as you can see from the label here. And this very striking can art, which is different than the original Polly's Floret, which is what this is. But it's now an extra pale ale. It used to be a pale ale, and it was something like 4.7%, something like that. And now it's an extra pale ale. Hops wise, it doesn't actually say the hops on here, I don't think. Oh, yes, it does. It's Azacca, Citra, and Simcoe. But as I say, they've lowered the ABV, obviously probably to get it cheaper in the way of the duty and stuff in the supermarkets. But it'd be interesting because I really enjoyed this beer. I've had it on draft a few times in a few places. Really good pale ale. But where it's now an extra pale ale, it always makes me nervous because I'm always a bit, extra pale ales can be a little bit watery, not quite have the body. But it's Polly's, you know, we've got to trust Polly's. We'll see what this is going to be like. Well, certainly looks a lot paler than what I remember. Before it was a much darker than this. This is almost the point where, you know, it's not even as hazy as you'd usually expect from a pale ale from Polly's. We've got just about one finger. It's fairly compacted though, but it's very, very yellowy, light yellow coloured. I suppose this is your traditional pale ale colour, but Polly's don't make traditional pale ales in that sense. They're usually a lot thicker, a lot closer to IPAs. Okay, let's see what the aroma's like. Yeah, it's a bit subdued and it smells, dare I say it, like a supermarket beer. Not really picking out any of the sort of individual hops. There's a lemony smell, which is always like, pale ale by numbers is always a bit lemony. That's always the thing that, you know, you get. But Polly's, I expect better from you. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about this now. Let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, that's a real drop in standards, that, for Polly's. Doesn't really taste of much at all. Slightly lemony, watery. There's a slight sort of, I don't know, just a weird sort of aftertaste to it. It's a little bit carbonated. It's very, very thin in terms of its body, so obviously it's light as well. This is a disappointing beer from my favourite brewery. I mean, it's not up there. The Floret that I had before, I really enjoyed. I remember having it at the time thinking this is a really good beer for a pale ale, but it was a really good beer. Lots of flavours. They did that in Rosebud, and remember that's a 5.9% IPA. I have a feeling that I've seen that as well and that's coming in Morrison's supermarket. Whether they've touched the ABV or that, I'm not sure. But this, the touch in the ABV, the rebrewing of this, it's not great at all. It's just, it tastes like a lot of pale ales you get in the supermarkets. Not like a Polly's beer at all. Doesn't have that distinct mouthfeel. You can't really pick out hops in there at all. It's just like one sort of flavour that's lemony. Really, really disappointed. Polly's, when they weren't in the supermarket when there was a big explosion of craft beer, especially with the likes of like Northern Monk and Tiny Rebel and Brewdog and those sort of beers. But even beer with brands like Salt and North, people like that, they were in the supermarkets. Polly's weren't in there at all, and you thought, no, I can't see Polly's being in there. And then they appeared. I'm trying to think what was the first Polly's supermarket beer. I think it might have even been in Sainsbury's, and I think it was a really good beer. It was almost like this is their pale ale that you buy from the bottle shops, and it's in the supermarkets, and it's no different. Then they had a few others that sort of came in the supermarket before they were on the bottle shop, so you could tell that they were made for the supermarkets. They were the two that were in Morrison's, and they were Mosaic Maze, which was a Mosaic IPA, and another one that was a Pale Ale, Satin Pattern, that was it, for Pale Ales. And they were okay, not quite up to the Poly standards, but not poor beers, still good beers, certainly for supermarkets. Then we've had a recent one in Sainsbury's, Pale Ale. I'm trying to think. Probably. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. Was it Melting? This one here, Melting Rose. There, I think that was the one that was in Sainsbury's. That was one of the best supermarket beers. But now they're getting this one in 4.2%. I wonder whether it's actually still, because obviously I see it on their website all the time. I wonder if their Floret that you buy from the bottle shop is the same one. In fact, I've got the internet in front of me, so let's do a quick search. Yeah, bear with me here. I don't usually do this sort of like interneting when I'm doing a video review. Basically because, you get so much, usually, it takes forever to load and stuff. And you can click yes, I'm over 18. Oh, look at the beer. I mean, the website is quite a new website, and it looks pretty good, actually. I only usually view it on my phone, so it looks pretty good on the old desktop. Right, let's see where their Floret is. Beers. Floret. No, it's an extra pale ale. So it is an extra pale ale. As I said, it used to be a pale ale. And they're saying it's the baby version of their Spur IPA. It's a really good bit IPA, that Spur. But this is really lacking in flavour. I'm going to have a look because they've got Rosebud on here. Rosebud is 5.6. I'm sure it was 5.8 or 5.9. In fact, bear with me another little while. This video is going on a little bit. But I'll see if it might be right at the back of these beers. We'll have a quick look. Actually, I think it was Infinifold that was the beer that was in Sainsbury's. I'm sure it is here because I keep every Polly's beer. Oh, here it is. There's the Floret. Let's see if I can find. There's the Rosebud. Yep, I'm right. I thought I'd be right. I thought I know my Polly's beer. Right, if you're still with me, you haven't sort of decided what's he going off on. There's the original Floret, 4.5%. So now that's down to 4.2. Hops wise, Azacca, Citra and Simcoe. So the hop bill hasn't changed, just the ABV has. And obviously it's made it a lot watery. But check out check out my review. Just search it, you find it. I won't do a pop out thing. I've got to do that. But if you search my video, you'll see the review of that. It was a couple of years ago. And then, as I said, Rosebud now, it's in a new can art and it's 5.6%. I'm sure it's now coming into Morrison's. I haven't been in Morrison's for a while, but I'm sure I've seen it in Morrison's on the internet forums and stuff like that. 5.6%, the Rosebud now. The original Rosebud, 5.9%. So they've taken off a few ABV for that. Citra, Galaxy, Mosaic and Simcoe. So I expect that to be not as good because it's definitely, it's not just a little bit different or a little bit not as good. It's a big jump to an inferior beer. It tastes like millions of other supermarket pale ales. Lemony flavour, watery, a little bit carbonated, too carbonated, and just the thin as anything. The flavour doesn't just sort of washes itself away. It's a sort of beer that Polly should be, I suppose, a bit disappointed with. I think they, if this is a sort of beer that you have in a super, if this is your first beer, from Polly's and you go into Sainsbury's and you think, yeah, I quite like the can artwork. Can artwork looks good, I think, and to some extent it's a little bit more modern and exciting than the original version. And so you could pick this up, drink it and go, well, it's all right. I'm not going to blow my socks off. But if you'd had the original or had any other recent Polly's beers from supermarkets, like the Infinifold, I'm sure that was in the supermarkets, but I'm sure it was that Major Melter was the other one that was in the supermarkets. I've reviewed them, so check the channel. But you know, you drink that, and that's Polly's class pale ales, really, and you know the quality is good, and that's going to make you want to drink them. But you drink this, I don't think you're going to necessarily want to go and seek out Polly's, because I think you could drink this and you could drink a Tiny Rebel beer, or you could even drink Hazy Jane and probably think, well, actually I prefer the Hazy Jane. Yeah, I'm going to leave it on this before we do the scores. But yeah, I would rather drink Hazy Jane than drink this beer from Polly's. That's how disappointed I am with it. Let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for Floret, the new rebrewed now extra pale ale from Polly's. I'm very disappointed with this beer, Polly's. Pull your socks up. You could do better. I will still buy your beers because I know your stuff on the bottle shops, your stuff directly on your website is going to be better. But this is a huge. I think you've gambled with the supermarkets, and I think for me, who's loves Polly's beer, the gamble has not paid off. So let's go for the scores. Starting with aroma, appearance, flavour, value for money. Then this is £3.50 in Sainsbury's, but you can buy it as part 4 for free, so you can get it cheaper than that. And finally, my overall experience. I think this is the first, but this is a beer that is not recommended. It's in the 60s, 67 out of 100. It's a Bon Jovi beers, and it's, you know, it is a bit bland. It's a bit boring. It's nothing that, you know, there's nothing in the supermarkets that is. It's very much in the vein of very average supermarket beers, especially pale ale. So you might go in there and see a few breweries that you've not heard of before, and they've got some pale ales, and you drink them and you think, yeah, it's a pale ale. It's lemony and a little bit floral. But this does not stick out for me. But it's disappointed. 67 out of 100. That is a poor score for Polly's. You know, Polly's are always in the 70s. Sometimes they're in the 80s as well. You know, a lot of the times they're in the 80s, but this is a disappointing beer. So let me know what you think if you've had this new one from Sainsbury's. Have you had, you know, if you drink a lot of Polly's and you've had this one, have you thought, this is not what I expect from Polly's? Or maybe you've had the original Floret and you've now had this one and you thought, I don't remember it being this bad. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe you think, yeah, it just tastes no different than it did before. Let me know in the comments. And until the next one, well, you know what you do. Drink good craft beer and keep on rocking.